Hi, folks. I'm Warren Wilson with Police One. We have a special guest to go along with this article that I wrote on intervention and the dangers of intervening off duty. And his name is Greg Ellifritz with Active Response Training. He's also a very retired, apparently, a very retired officer from up north. And he's now moved down south to more normal America, and he spends a lot of time on vacation now. So I highly recommend you reach out to him if for nothing else for his retirement and investing advice. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself and active response training.
My name's Greg Ellifritz. I retired after 25 years working as a cop in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, a fairly wealthy, high-dollar suburb with about 60 officers on the police department. 13 of those 25 years, I was the full-time training officer for the department. So I had a chief at one time who was very much into training, and he made me a deal that if I took the training officer job, he would send me to any kind of training I wanted to go to anywhere in the country as long as I brought it back to the officers. So I took full advantage of that during my career and amassed something like 4,500 hours of instructor training and about working on about 90 instructor certifications across almost all fields of police instruction, mostly firearms and defensive tactics, though. I have I founded Active Response Training, my training business, back around the year 2000, but really active with it about 2013. And that's what I do full time now. I travel across the country and I teach gunfighting and knife fighting and emergency medicine classes all across the country. I think I taught in 11 different states last year and do 2 or 3 weekends a month all over teaching people, armed citizens and cops, how to fight better.
And so I do like to pick on him on all my Northy friends because I'm from Oklahoma and we like to pick on him. So y'all just get used to it. But now he's you mind me saying where, what state?
No, no. I
Now,
live outside of Austin, Texas right now.
yeah, so he's still got a little Northy in him with that Austin part, but we're
Outside.
we're
I did say outside. I'm not within the city limits. So,
okay. So rural Austin. Now we love all of our cops all over the country, and that's what's so fun about Police One is we get to talk to people and interact with people from all over, and that's kind of one of the things cops do is have fun with each other. So there is one particular. I know you write for the active response training page, of course. You're the head, the CEO, CFO, and head bottle washer at ART. But there's a special one that I like, and most folks I think are their favorite part of the week is Weekend Knowledge Dump, and that comes out every Friday. What was that
yes.
all about?
Uh, I've kind of been obsessed with reading and compiling information for a very, very long time. So I have a very active news feed of curated sources that are mostly in the fighting realm. So I read thousands of news articles every week, and I compile the best 30 of them every Friday for the weekend knowledge dump. And I've been doing that every week, haven't missed a week for more than 13 years now. So every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, there's an article where I summarize and comment on the top 30 articles that I read during the week. A lot of police-oriented stuff, a lot of fighting-oriented stuff, gun and shooting-oriented stuff. A lot of readers really like that. So that's the biggest draw to my website that I've got. I write 2 or 3 other articles each week as well, but the knowledge dump is the big one that people like.
It's become quite a thing because I remember even I first made it. I'm going to brag. I first made it to the Knowledge Dump in 2015, I think it was, and I cannot tell you how excited I was. I just was like, "Whoa, cool!" And I think that was over on Tim Lau's webpage back in the day when. So yeah, it's always a cool thing.
You
And
have low standards, brother. Low
oh,
standards.
yeah, they're low for myself, but I'm pretty excited about it still. And still every once in a while, I still make it every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, look at that. And we always get a lot more views when we're in the Weekend Knowledge Dump too. So not to be selfish, but yeah, folks, if you don't follow Weekend Knowledge Dump, you're missing out on some free stuff for a guy who doesn't watch TV a lot or movies, and he mostly just entertains himself like that with reading and does a lot of the work for us. So it's kind of cool. So my I don't think I answered the question fully whenever you asked me why you for this article. And it struck me when I was at another training deal in Kansas a while back, and Stephanie Widener said something about you and Chris Seipert kind of being on the avoidance scale when you're off duty, and encouraging officers to be really wary of intervening off duty, despite the fact that, if you look at either one of you, you're at a like a UFC event, you wouldn't know if you were competing or if you're going to be sitting in the audience or whatever. You're kind of the guys that you don't pick out in a crowd and go, I'm going to mess with that guy. And also, you are a little bit capable in other ways too. It's not just that you've seen a weight room before. You teach a lot of entangled kind of stuff,
Yeah.
firearm stuff. Big fan of OC, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes.
Uh, Knife stuff. And what is this?
That is the K-Bar LDK last ditch knife that I designed back in 2007. I was doing a bunch of traveling in South America and Africa, and I was worried about kidnapping attempts. And I wanted a knife that I could hide on my person that might get missed if I had got searched, and the search wasn't a very good one. So I wanted the smallest effective knife that I could actually use to defend myself or to cut myself free of various restraints that I could hide just about anywhere. So you can safety pin that inside your clothes, carry it in your wallet, put it inside the back of your belt, lace it up in your shoelaces. There's a dozen places you could hide that thing, and it just kind of gives you that last ditch defense option. I was looking for that kind of knife to buy one during my travels, and no one made it, so I decided to make it myself. So it's done pretty well. It sells about 500 a month and has for the last almost 20 years now. So it's one of K-Bar's best sellers. So it keeps
And
keeps keeps selling
it's
stuff. So it's good.
yeah, at one point we're talking about not selling anymore, and then there was kind of an uproar because you really can't have too many of them, and they're very reasonable. It's a very
Yeah, they're
reasonable.
less than $20.
Yeah, it's
So
like
yeah.
20 bucks.
Hmm.
So very cool. And so again, really just pointing out that not somebody who can't take care of himself, not somebody who isn't capable of taking care of himself if he was in an off-duty situation. But ever since I've known you and read you, which has been about 13 read, and I don't remember the first time we actually met only in face to face a few years ago. But why would this guy be concerned about intervening off duty? Why not? What are the downsides to that? If you're a really capable guy.
Well, the downsides are pretty obvious. If you're an off-duty officer, you don't have your radio communication, you don't have your body armor, you probably have a smaller gun if you're carrying a gun at all. You don't have your friends, your backup immediately
Hmm.
available. You don't have a uniform that differentiates you from everyone else to keep people from getting confused into strange situations. You probably have minimal, less lethal tools, maybe some OC spray, but not many people are carrying batons or tasers off duty. All of that puts you at a disadvantage. But I think even worse than that is the lack of information that you have when you're dealing with off-duty encounters. Everybody understands, I'm not carrying all the gear and I don't have my friends and my radio with me. But I was involved in something my very first year as a patrol officer that kind of set the tone for me and made me really think about getting involved off duty. I was grocery shopping in a grocery store that was in the city where I worked. I lived in the city next door, but the closest grocery store was in the city where I worked. And it was a Sunday night and evening and mid 1990s, and I was carrying a 38 revolver and no spare reload, and just decided to go grocery shopping. And I saw a loss prevention officer fighting with a female shoplifter who was trying to run out the store with a whole shopping cart full of steaks. So he's fighting with her in the parking lot, and I know him. I dealt with him on various calls before. He recognized me. I went up and badged the woman and grabbed her, and the two of us walked her into the store. No big deal at all. He called the police, and a coworker showed up to arrest this woman. And unbeknownst to me, I had been off the entire week before. I was assigned to take a radar laser class at the State Patrol Academy, and I was taking that class, and I hadn't been to any roll calls or seen any updates. Uh, but apparently, this was a gang of very violent shoplifters, and the female hat was the one who usually stole everything, but she had two or three other people with her that would stake out the parking lot in a van and would intervene if someone caught the woman shoplifting. And we had gotten a teletype update from a local other agency about this gang, and she was part of this gang, but I hadn't been to work for a week and I didn't know anything about this. And when the officer showed up, the on-duty officer showed up, and I handed her over. He said, "Well, what are you doing? Why are you getting involved in this?" And I said, "Well, just a shoplifter. She didn't look armed. The guy was having a little trouble arresting her. It was in my city. Just thought I'd help out, do the right thing." And he told me about the van load full of armed accomplices that she was with. Luckily, I never saw them. I didn't think to look for them. I didn't think to look for accomplices. I didn't think to look for a getaway car. I was a rookie cop and didn't know any better. And, I thought how much my attention was captured by this woman who was running out with several $1,000s worth of steaks in a shopping cart. And I wasn't paying attention to anything around me. I didn't know anything about this gang that was likely to intervene should she be caught. I had no knowledge about any of this. And the senior officer that came to make the arrest, he really, really jumped me and told me, I was being stupid and I shouldn't have done this. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to get some kind of medal or award. I saved the day, arrested this felony shoplifter, and he really dressed me down and told me I was being stupid. And I didn't have a radio with me, and I didn't have any comms, and didn't have any way to really defend myself against multiple people, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I shouldn't have intervened. And that really made me think about the future of, should I do this or should I not? Everything worked out just fine in that particular scenario, but it made me think that it might have gone really badly when I was distracted dealing with her if her two or three friends jumped out of that van and shot or beat me or whatever. And it made me really hesitant to get involved in anything more, something minor like that in the future.
So what do you think the chances were those guys were in the parking lot right then?
I think they were. I mean, apparently, this was really common. There was a standard MO of this group of shoplifters. And I was so dumb at the time. I was working night shift, and I didn't encounter that many shoplifting calls, and I didn't think to look for a getaway car. I didn't think to do anything. I was less than a year on the police department, but I'm sure she got there somewhere. And as soon as we were out of sight, they took off, and there was no suspicious vehicles in the parking lot when the on-duty officers got there. But it was something that I didn't even think to look for because I was too new and too dumb. And they were gone by the time the on-duty officers arrived. But I'm willing to bet that they were there. She had to get to the store somewhere, and she wasn't going to walk down the streets with a shopping cart full of steaks. She was going to dump them off in a car and drive away. And luckily, they decided not to intervene for whatever reason.
So outside of the fact that you might lose one of those battles, one of those situations, there's also the concern that you might get in trouble at work
Sure,
because you
sure,
don't know
absolutely.
what you're doing and you don't know what
Yeah,
you're getting into, and you kind of don't know who's who. So
that's right.
that's uh that's I think that's an excellent point. You told me before maybe you had another example of a really bad
You talk about
outcome.
talk about not knowing what was going on. I responded to a call from an off-duty police officer who got himself in a little bit of trouble, and it turned out to be a really chaotic situation. I wrote about it on my blog. But I got an officer in trouble call from the neighboring jurisdiction, and I was on the road that divided our two jurisdictions. And I was real close to the call, and I rolled up on it and what happened was another shoplifter from a department store and a off-duty officer who was a part-time police officer, but a full-time store security officer, was trying to arrest the shoplifter in the parking lot, and she was getting the better hand of him. She beat him pretty badly and escaped, but he stayed in the fight and she knocked him down several times, and he chased her down and tackled her. And they were right by this busy road that served as the divider between my city and the other city. He's trying to get her into handcuffs, and she starts screaming rape. And an armed citizen, a person with a concealed carry permit, pulls over, draws his gun on this plainclothes police officer who was wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, to look, unobtrusive as he worked for the store security, and pulled his gun on him, pointed at his head, and said, "Let her go, or I'm going to shoot you in the head." At that point, the off-duty officer pulled out his badge, and it was at that moment that the officer from the other jurisdiction drove up on all of this. So she sees a guy holding a badge, a woman screaming rape, and another person holding a gun on the person holding the badge. And that officer put out, thinking that someone was going to get shot, put out an officer in trouble call, and we got it all sorted out there. But another reminder of, that you don't know what's going on. Other people don't know what's going on because you're not in a uniform. And really, really bad things can happen when you are all by yourself and have no backup to differentiate you from, a potential rapist, as this woman was claiming. So kind of crazy situation. It all got sorted out. The shoplifter went to jail, but it could have gone really, really badly on several different levels there.
Yeah, and that's a good lesson for our armed citizens friends too. I would think you
No
don't
doubt.
know what's going on in Oklahoma. If you step into a situation like that, you're taking the side legally of whoever you're taking the side of. You're taking their stance. So if they're the one that started it, if they're the ones that's a criminal, and they just happen to be losing when you see it, then you are on that person's side essentially, as far as the law is concerned. You have stepped into their shoes, is what the law says. So that can be a problem for you if you pick the wrong side. So we want to be real careful about that kind of thing.
Sure.
And that's kind of the lesson that we're trying to get out of this one. So far we can get we can we can win the fight and still get in trouble with the department. We can still get in trouble with the law. We can get a civil suit even, could we not?
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
And get our department sued,
Yeah.
get fired, all those things. And then we could actually lose the fight because no matter how well prepared we are,
Yeah.
getting back shot.
Yeah. Not too much you can do to prevent that. Talking about other bad situations, I had about 5 years on the police department, and I had a probationary officer who had gone out drinking one night and stopped at a local drive-through restaurant on his way home. And the car in front of him in this drive-through restaurant, he believed that the driver was really, really drunk. My probationary officer had had a couple of drinks, but supposedly was not drunk. He thought that this person was a real danger. And as the guy drove over the curb, pulling away, he decided he wanted to stop this drunk driver. And so he started honking his horns and flashing his lights and waving the guy to pull over. And when the guy eventually did pull over, the guy jumped out of the car and attacked my officer. And my officer, as the guy was running towards him, my officer drew his gun and fired. And at that moment, the moment that the officer fired, the guy saw the gun and started to turn to flee. So the shot ended up hitting him in the back and dropping him. And the officer got charged with felonious assault and attempted murder and got fired by our police department. And turned out really, really badly for him in that situation where he just thought he was trying to stop a drunk driver, convince him not to drive home. And the guy jumped him as soon as he got out of the car, and he wasn't expecting that. Hadn't called the police, hadn't identified himself, anything. He just thought he would get the guy to pull over and then walk up to the car and say, "Hey, man, you need to get a ride. You shouldn't be driving. You're drunk." That's all he thought he was going to do. And the guy attacked him, and he ended up shooting him. It looked like a bad shoot. And he ended up with felony charges and getting fired from our police department. So, something like that could happen. He didn't lose that fight physically, but the legal scenario, he definitely lost in that realm.
And a 911 call probably would have
Would have
sufficed.
done the exact same thing. Give the
You
license
know,
plate, the direction of travel, and the description, and it's not your problem anymore. That would have just solved the problem. But he was close to the guy. They were in the drive-through. He just thought, I'm just gonna honk my horn, flash my lights. He'll pull over, and I'll tell him you really shouldn't drive.
yeah. And the bad guy gets a vote.
Yeah, didn't quite work out the way he had planned.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm thinking, I'm trying to think of how many number or how many of those situations I think I've read over my career or know of or read myself, and there are at least scores of them
Yeah,
out there. Uh, it's so often, and it's usually over something dumb.
yeah, yep.
But at the same time, now there's always another side. When would you think that it would be a time when you would intervene?
For me, I think it would be one of two situations. If I didn't have friends, family members, or loved ones to protect, if I was all by myself and it was something like an active killer situation where someone was shooting innocent people at that point in time, I would probably intervene in that environment. Um, if I did have friends or family members at that while that shooting was going on, I would probably work first to get them to safety, and I would certainly intervene if the killer threatened me or my family members on our way out. But other than that, where, it's obvious that someone is, placing an innocent person in life-threatening danger or placing me or my loved ones in life-threatening danger, I wouldn't intervene other than making the call to 911. I really think that there's no other situation other than lots of innocent people being killed or myself or my loved ones being threatened with life-threatening danger that would cause me to intervene in an off-duty scenario. And now all my scenarios are off-duty, and that's the other thing that you got to think about. Hopefully all of your watchers and listeners here are going to make it to retirement like I am, and make that transition from I am not a police officer anymore. I don't have any more authority than the average armed citizen. And I really need to think about what situations I'm going to get involved in and which situations I'm going to pass off to the guys on duty.
And that's almost exactly where I'm at. Uh, and it's taken me a while to get there because I was what you would call a high responder,
Sure.
that usually comes with a low IQ or a low EQ at least. Uh, yeah, it's
Well,
kind
you
of the same
get
place
paid to
I
be
am
a
too.
you get paid to be a high responder 40 plus hours a year. Even if I think a lot of police officers, even if they aren't personality wise considered a high responder, by doing it full time for a job year after year after year, that it becomes an ingrained response. And we have to be really cautious, when we don't have the backing, of the city that we work in or the state that we work in or the county that we work in and all of the resources that we have available as an on-duty police officer.
And I think that's the big point that we tend to miss is you're really not the same person when you're off duty as when you are.
It's
Yeah,
true.
you're a high responder, but if you take that high responder and you move it away from your standing in that particular situation without your uniform, without your radio, without your equipment, without your legal standing, you're in a different spot and you need to think. Now, I'll tell you how I look at it. It's something that I'm not going to intervene unless I have to. And if it's something that I have to legally, morally, uh, something that would crush my heart for the rest of my life if I didn't get involved in, then I'm probably gonna get involved. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna just try to be a good witness. I can't stand by and watch innocent people get hurt just like you, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to intervene. But I'm gonna do so really smartly, wisely, because even now in a relatively small community of 50,000 people, in our county, I think is about 60,000, and I don't know all the cops. I don't know all the troopers anymore. I've been in office for a long time. They might not know who I am. And there was at least one incident a while back at a police department somewhere else where an a off-duty officer was intervening in a situation outside the department, matched the description of the suspect, and one of the on-duty officers who works with that guy didn't recognize even all the stress and actually
Wow.
shot the officer
Yeah.
and killed him. And so I don't want to take up too, I don't put too many details about that on there, but that was because that's a rough one. But a lot of just terrible things can happen, and there's so rarely do you hear about um, good things happening.
Yeah.
When an officer intervenes, even when it's a dead bang obvious situation. So that's kind of the message I was hoping to get out, and I knew you were the perfect guy to do it. And I think we did it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with that?
No, I think that's it. Just be really, really cautious, folks. Think it through. You see how all of these cases are ending up, the disposal of these cases that you make on duty. You are arresting these people and they're not getting convicted. They're not going to jail. Think about, is it really worth it to put yourselves and maybe your family at risk for to make an arrest off duty and have that case dismissed, or pled down to some low-level misdemeanor and the person gets off with just a fine? You're risking your life, and it may not be worth it for a whole lot of things. It's one thing when you're getting paid to do it and that's your responsibility, but when you're off duty, you need to be really smart about what you engage in.
Yeah, it's not worth a cart full of steaks.
No, no.
So it's activeresponsetraining.com,
Dot, dot net.
.net. I'm sorry,
ActiveResponseTraining.net.
.net, and the Weekend Knowledge Dump, and you can sign up on that page. You can sign up and get emails and to get reminded
Yep.
about it,
Yep.
which I do every Friday. And I highly recommend it because Greg's doing all the work for us, and we don't. It's kind of like having an AI, like having Grok or something. You know, it's like I don't want to search 25 articles. What are the good ones that are out there? Well, Greg does all that for us. So go to activeresponsetraining.net and make sure and check out Weekend Knowledge Dump. And I really want to say thanks, Greg. I know you don't do a lot of these. You may have broken a seal now with these first two that you
I'm in
did.
trouble now.
So you may be in trouble now. You can blame me for it because that's what I thought. He doesn't do those, and I just watched him do one. So we're gonna try to get him, and we're gonna try to get him. So I really appreciate it, man, and I really love that you're enjoying your retirement. I'm a little bit jealous, but I really love that you're doing it. You deserve it. And to all the great folks out there in Copland, please be careful. If you're not going to listen to me, you got to listen to Greg. He knows a lot more than I do. And I think that's all I got. All
Thanks,
right.
everyone. I appreciate
Well,
being on. Thanks for asking me on, Warren. I appreciate it. I had fun. Be glad
yep.
to come on anytime you need me.
Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to say that to me. All right. Hey, brother, I appreciate you so much. For all the folks out in P1 land, have a good one. Be safe. And when you're off duty, you're off duty.